Before I do talk about the champion in the championship race, the first thing I want to do is I want to send my prayers and condolences out to the Gibbs family, Ty Gibbs, Joe Gibbs, and everybody in the Gibbs family. Unfortunately, this morning, Coy Gibbs, the father of Ty Gibbs and the son of Joe Gibbs, unfortunately passed away. Very tragic and very, very sad news. Our hearts are with Joe Gibbs Racing in a very, very sad, tragic day for Joe Gibbs Racing. My prayers and condolences do go out to the family. Very, very tragic news. So now let's go ahead and talk about the championship race as a whole and talk about the champions. So I'm going to be honest, this race was not the greatest, to be honest with you. There was not a lot of passing that happened throughout. There was a lot of domination, and it was very, very difficult to pass. For the most part in this race, Joey Logano completely just straight up dominated. I think he was the leader of the championship for like 280 of the 312 laps. The only time he really was not up leading the championship was, I think, during green flag pit stops. It was very, very difficult to pass here at Phoenix, and Joey Logano put on a very, very dominating clinic, and he went on to win his second Cup Series Championship. First of all, congratulations to Joey Logano on winning the championship. Joey Logano did have the best car, in my opinion. He actually ended up winning the race as well. Ryan Blaney, I think, did look a little better than Joey Logano in the race itself, so we do not break the record of winners in 2022. But major congratulations to Joey Logano on becoming a two-time champion. He will now only be the second driver in the Cup Series to have two championships, the other guy being Kyle Busch, who will be leaving Joe Gibbs Racing to go to Richard Childress Racing next season to drive the number 8 car. Talking more about Joey Logano, he actually had 2 extra weeks to prepare. You have to remember that as well. They look really good in practice on Friday. They look really good in qualifying on Saturday. And the trend was from the Truck Series race and the Xfinity Series race was that if you start on the pole, you won the race. Zane Smith won the Truck Series race because he wanted to start on the pole, though he had to get through strategy. Ty Gibbs completely dominated yesterday the Xfinity Series race and went on to win the Xfinity Series title. And now Joe Logano completely dominates the Cup race and goes on to win the Cup title. Congratulations, Joe Logano. Well-deserved, in my opinion. Gets 4 wins in 2022, which is the second most of anybody in the field. The only driver having more was Chase Elliott. It was very consistent, and coming into this weekend, you knew Logano was going to kind of be a threat. Logano was really strong at Gateway. Remember, Gateway is very similar to Phoenix, and he ended up winning at Gateway. So I knew coming this weekend, especially with how fast Joe Gibbs Racing has been on the shorter ovals this year. Not Joe Gibbs Racing. Team Penske was on the shorter ovals this year. You kind of knew that he was going to be an absolute threat to go out there and win this championship. So congratulations, Joe Logano. Well-deserved, in my opinion. Let's talk about the other championship contenders. Let's talk about Chase Elliott. I think Chase Elliott probably had the best car of the rest of the championship drivers. Unfortunately, Chase Elliott made a massive mistake on one of the late race restarts at around 90 laps to go in this race. Chase Elliott and Ross Chastain were basically nose to tail in front of each other. Chase Elliott came down on Ross Chastain and basically spun himself out and got a ton of damage. A lot of people are going to be easy to put the blame on Ross Chastain, and while Ross Chastain could have lifted, when you're in a championship race, you're not going to lift. And unfortunately, very similar to 2016, when Carl Edwards took himself out of a championship, unfortunately, Chase Elliott made a massive mistake and spun himself out. I know that a lot of Chase Elliott fans are going to be upset with that move, and trust me, that was Chase did get turned by Chastain, but in my personal and honest opinion, you kind of do have to put the blame just a little bit on Chase Elliott right there. I think Chase Elliott is definitely to blame, but Chase had a fast car. They tried a strategy in the middle of the race as well, and they looked really good, and they were actually doing a really good job on the strategy. They had enough gas to get back there and nearly got stage points, even though I don't think the championship guys do get stage points. Chase Elliott did look pretty solid and ends up finishing, unfortunately, like 30th in the race, which is very unfortunate, but he loses out on a championship and will be looking to try to get a second championship in 2023. Let's now talk about Ross Chastain. Ross Chastain actually ended up finishing second of the championship drivers, finished third in the race, ended up finishing third in the race, and actually was catching Joey Logano near the end of the race. I think Chastain's car on the short run was not as good as Logano's, but on the long run, I think he had a much better car than Joey Logano, and near the end of that race, he was catching Joey Logano. Unfortunately, though, for Ross Chastain, he just ran out of time to get up there to try to catch Joey Logano. He was about 2 seconds back. He was gaining, and it was about 1.3 or 1.4 back. He needed about another 10 laps to get to Logano. If he had another 10 laps, I think he wins the race. He did have a pretty good pit stop to get back up there. That green flag pit stop where they lost a ton of positions and were 4 seconds slower to Logano is what cost him, in my opinion, the championship, because they were better than Logano, and I think if they're closer to where Blaney is and they're up front closer, I think Chastain has a shot to get it done. I know a lot of Chase Elliott fans are probably not happy that Ross Chastain did not win, but Chase Elliott basically, and a lot of Chase Elliott fans can be frustrated, but I think Ross Chastain kind of just didn't have a fast enough car to catch Logano. Let's finally talk about Christopher Bell. I think for many people a lot of people wanted to win, especially after the tragic news that happened today. I think Christopher Bell actually had the best of the 4 cars on the long run. I think his car looked really, really good throughout the run. Unfortunately, Christopher Bell on this last pit stop of the race with 36 laps to go had a 19.8 second pit stop, which even for even the old era, that would have been a much slower pit stop, and he restarted in 13th. Christopher Bell did drive his way back up the 10th, but unfortunately there was not enough laps and no more cautions came out near the end of the race, and unfortunately that's what cost Christopher Bell a shot at the championship. If you're Christopher Bell, especially after that, you're going to definitely be really frustrated for sure that you didn't get to have a chance to win the championship. So very unfortunate right there for Christopher Bell, and he did not win the championship, which is really, really unfortunate. Let's talk about some other storylines throughout the race as well. There was a couple wrecks that happened in this race. You had a wreck between Michael McDowell and Tyler Reddick. Tyler Reddick got spun by somebody off of turn number 4. And then I think Michael McDowell got turned by Ty Dillon as Ty Dillon tried to check up. He had nowhere to go, got into Michael McDowell, and ended up spinning out. You had a crash between Landon Castle and Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Landon Castle, I think, had spun out, and Stenhouse had nowhere to go. Stenhouse has completely struggled these last few weeks, and unfortunately, he had nowhere to go to get there, and unfortunately, nowhere to go to get through the wreck. And then on the last caution came out for Alex Bowman, Michael McDowell just made a completely stupid bonehead mistake, which I haven't seen many of those from Michael McDowell this year. That's the first mistake I think he's made all year. But unfortunately, that mistake is what really, I think, cost Bell and Chastain's shot to try to win the championship, because I think that's what kind of put the nail in the coffin for those guys to get it done. But now, after talking about that, let's talk about some other headlines. Ryan Blaney. Ryan Blaney, in my opinion, I think he did have the best car of everybody in the field. But unfortunately for Ryan Blaney, it was very difficult to pass here at Phoenix. It was very difficult because with how the track was with the PJ1, which is very disappointing because I think the Xfinity Series and the truck races were actually better than the Cup race. And I do think it's a combination of the short track package with the next gen car, the short track aero package, which they run the same package as the intermediate package, which is 670 horsepower and 4-inch spoiler. There's talk there could be some changes to the aero package. We'll talk about here probably tomorrow on the channel with all the other stories we'll talk about. But yeah, we'll talk about that because I don't think this race was absolutely killer. But going back to Joey Logano, you knew coming this weekend he was going to be a threat. I think he had a very equal championship for, and while Joey Logano did not win the championship in the Winston Cup format of this system, he did win this championship in the other format. So congratulations to Joey Logano on winning the Cup Series Championship. I think he deserves it in my opinion. I definitely wanted Christopher Bell, Chastain, or Elliott to win. And I'll be personally honest, I'm not the biggest fan of Joey Logano, but I have grown to like Joey Logano a lot more as a person and a driver. He's a nicer guy basically off the racetrack than he's on the racetrack, and I look at the talent nowadays over their personality, and to me, I don't really care as much about how you are sometimes on the track. If you're an extremely talented driver, you definitely clearly deserve the championship, and he had a lot of momentum. He's been great historically at Phoenix. I believe that's his 3rd win at Phoenix and his 31st career NASCAR Cup Series victory, which he now ties Martin Truex Jr. on that, but he also becomes only like the 15th or 16th driver, something along those lines, to have 2 Cup Series championships, a well-deserved champion, in my opinion, in the 22 camp. No one else can really touch him. The only driver in the race I think that really could touch him was Chase Briscoe, who looked really good here, but I think he got loose near the end of the race. And I think if Briscoe held up Logano a little bit more, I think he had a chance to maybe get it done for Chastain to try to get up there and get it. But unfortunately, Chastain had nothing for him, and Logano goes on to win the championship. Overall, let's go through the score of today's race. I'm going to be real with you guys. Probably the worst race of the weekend. The truck race is really, really good. I gave that a 9 out of 10. The Xfinity Series race was really, really good. The best race of the weekend. I gave it a 9 out of 10. This race was pretty bad. I'm going to be honest. I think this race is worse than... This race is around where the spring race was. There was good moments for sure. The restarts are really, really great. But I feel like this race was just a little bit worse. Maybe a little bit worse than the spring race. Granted, there wasn't much anticipation coming the weekend. I do think a lot of people feel like, because I do feel like similar to all the other short oval races, they haven't been as good this year. But Phoenix also throughout history isn't a track that does great. Yes, I do think the facility is absolutely fantastic. It's for people that I know who've gone to the race, they say the facility is absolutely fantastic if you go there. And the reason they really got the championship season finale is because of that reason alone. But unfortunately, the racing product does not always deliver. I hope in the future we go to a different track. Maybe like we go to Homestead. Maybe if they do get that short track project done, which that is supposed to be done in the near future, they go there. But we need to go somewhere else where I think the racing product is going to be a lot better. So, but also with the race concluding today, the championship being done as well, that is a 2022 NASCAR Cup Series season. This, of course, was the final race of the 2022 season, and the championship has been officially concluded with Joe Logano winning the championship. But again, congratulations, Joe Logano, on winning the 2022 NASCAR Cup Series Championship. My score for today's race, though, is a 6 out of 10. Actually, a 7 out of 10. I think it was good. Actually, 6.5 out of 10 is my score for today's race. So, that is today's Cup Series race review from and championship talk from Phoenix. I want to thank you guys for watching. Please subscribe to the channel, notifications on, so be notified when a video does go live on my channel. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and support me on Patreon as well. Links are below over that, and comment your thoughts on today's video. What are your thoughts on Joe Logano winning the Cup Series Championship? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for your coverage, and thank you guys for supporting every single race this year. We got about 3 months till the season starts. In fact, 3 months from February, basically yesterday, we'll be starting the season once again. There's other races coming up. We got the Snowball Derby coming up, Chili Bowl Nationals, Rolex 24, a lot of racing on the way, and we've also got some Formula 1 content dropping on the channel as we'll be doing reviews for the Brazilian Grand Prix and the Abu Dhabi GP. So anyway, we got other videos coming out this week, but I'll see you guys there for some more great content. Take care, everybody.